Hi there, welcome to Catholic Answers Live on this Monday. I'm Jerry Usher, filling in for Cy Kellett. It's a possibility that you heard me on my program along with Debbie Georgiani, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, earlier today at noon Eastern Time, Monday through Friday at that time, with an encore at midnight Eastern Time, right here on many of these same EWTN radio stations. And I am blessed and honored to be in the host's chair. I'm not exactly in Cy's chair. I'm in my own chair, but filling in behind this microphone for Cy Kellett today. And always a great job by the show team at Catholic Answers putting things together for me and for our guests. And in the second hour, we're going to be talking with Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco about beauty in the liturgy. So be maybe getting your thoughts ready for that program, that second hour of the show. This hour, we're going to talk about resolving conflicts gracefully, and with someone who knows a lot about that because he deals with a lot of people and helps counsel a lot of people who find themselves in conflict situations. It's Dr. Gregory Popcak. He's the founder and director of the Pastoral Solutions Institute, which provides a nationwide telephone counseling service to help Christians. CatholicCounselors.com is their website. Dr. Greg is a psychotherapist and speaker, and he's authored more than a dozen books, including God Help Me, These People Are Driving Me Nuts, Making Peace with Difficult People. Dr. Greg, welcome back to the program.
Great to be here, Jerry. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we've got to mention your program, too, More to Life. You and Lisa do that, and that's on at, is it 10?
10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.
10 a.m. Eastern time. Excellent. So you're part of the EWTN lineup as well. You and Lisa do a fantastic job. And I just want to let our listeners know the phone lines are wide open right now. If you want to talk about conflict in your life, it's a part of life. Sometimes it can't be avoided. Maybe you're wondering how to deal with it gracefully and in a Christian manner. Maybe you've got that one person you just can't avoid locking horns with. I'm sure Dr. Greg can give you some advice on avoiding conflict with that individual. Maybe you just want to learn how to better set boundaries. That's a very important thing in avoiding conflict as well. Of course, the virtues can play a big part in our avoiding or resolving conflicts gracefully. So maybe you're wondering what virtues you can develop to keep you out of conflicts. Anything along these lines, the number is 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884, and Marie will screen your phone calls at that number right now. And Dr. Greg, let's just start real basic. What's your most important tip for dealing with conflict gracefully?
You know, the funny thing is, everybody says communication is key, and of course communication is important, but interestingly enough, the research says there's actually one thing that's even more important than good communication, and that's caretaking. The idea that when you're disagreeing with somebody, the most important thing isn't actually solving the problem. The most important thing is taking care of the other person so that you can solve the problem together. There have been several studies that actually looked at people who were considered to be good communicators, who sort of followed all the rules of good arguing, who actually were less effective at solving their problems than people who were less effective communicators, but who did more to try to be sensitive to the needs of the other person, to encourage the other person through the tension and toward solutions, to do things like say, you know, look, this is really hard, but thanks for hanging in there with me, or, hey, look, I really do love you, you know, or, you know, it's really important for me that you get what you need out of this too, or those kinds of supportive, encouraging messages that say, let's try to stay on the same side against the problem instead of working against each other.
Very good. Well, what role does listening then play in that? It sounds like it'd probably be a pretty important aspect of that.
Well, I mean, it's everything, but it comes, you know, it's listening in a particular way. You know, it's not just listening to the words the other person says. It's really about listening to what their needs are, and then reassuring that person that their needs are just as important to you as your needs are, which can be, you know, hard to do, especially if you feel like those needs are mutually exclusive somehow. But if you're able to be a little creative and really listen, 9 times out of 10 you're able to figure out how to come up with a solution that gets both of your needs, the sets of needs met. You just sometimes have to be a little more creative about how that happens and the timetable that happens in.
Catholic Answers Live, hour number 1 just getting underway. Phone lines are open at 888-318-7884, talking about resolving conflicts gracefully. Today with Dr. Gregory Popcak. He is the founder and director of the Pastoral Solutions Institute, and their website, again, is conflictcounselors.com. Obviously, this is probably a softball question because I was lamenting one day about kind of having a conflict with somebody in my life, and the person who I was talking to says, anytime you get two people under the same roof, at some point you're going to have conflict. So why do you think conflict is so common, Dr. Greg?
Well, again, it's largely because most people go into a conversation expecting that the other person isn't going to respect their needs or their wishes. There's a certain sense that one of us has to come out of this the victor, and it's going to be me, right? And that's really the root of all conflict, the idea that, I'm afraid that you're not going to want to help me get my needs met. So if you're able to identify what that other person's need is, which goes back to your point about listening, and then secondly, reassure that person that their needs really are important to you, and that you're just hoping that you guys can be creative enough to work together to figure out how you can both get your needs met, that really takes a lot of the tension out. The whole goal is to remember that the person isn't the problem is the problem. And it's your job to work together with this other person to solve the problem.
888-318-7884. We'll get to your calls in just a few minutes here on Catholic Answers Live. Dr. Gregory Popcak is with us here talking about resolving conflicts gracefully. Maybe you're looking for advice on how to avoid thinking that you have to win in a conflict situation. Maybe you're curious to know if there comes a point within a conflict when you just need to walk away. Any of these and other questions can be fair game here on the program at 888-318-7884. And you mentioned the whole, the most fruitful way to do this, of course, is like you said, taking care of the other person, knowing, letting them know you respect them, and so forth. But how can you deal effectively when someone just isn't really willing to do that, Dr. Greg, is being hostile and antagonistic?
Well, it's really easy to get triggered by somebody who's acting that way toward you, and then you start defending yourself or trying to explain why they're wrong. We're escalating it in other ways, and that's a natural thing to want to do. But my encouragement to anybody who's listening, if you've got somebody who tends to approach you in a more antagonistic or hostile way, best thing for you to do is take a breath and not respond to what they're saying, but rather empathize with the emotion behind their words and then redirect them towards some kind of a solution. So, for instance, to be able to say, look, I'm hearing that you're really upset about this, or I get how frustrated you are about thus and such, but what I'm not understanding is, what is it exactly that you're saying you want to try to do about this? Help me figure out how you want to resolve this, or what we need to do to address this. In other words, you're not responding to the attack, you're not defending yourself, you're not, like I said, trying to explain why they're wrong, but you're empathizing with the fact that they're frustrated, they're hurt, they're angry, they're scared, whatever it is, but then redirecting them towards solutions to try to get their thinking brain back engaged so that you can then work together on creating those solutions together. That really does diffuse people, because when someone's approaching you that way, again, they're afraid that you're not going to respect them, they're afraid that you're not going to take their needs seriously, and they haven't really thought through it. They're in reaction. So their emotional brain has taken over, right, and just sort of flooded their whole system. But by first engaging those emotions and empathizing with them, and then redirecting them towards solutions, what you're trying to do there is jumpstart their thinking brain to come back online. And if you can do that, then you can work with them. Up until that point, you just sort of have to manage the person and be empathetic and try to, let reassure them and those sorts of things. Now, if they're being completely antagonistic and not willing to work with you, it's okay to set limits with that person and to say, look, I'd love to have this conversation with you, but just not this way. Can we take it down a couple of notches, and other things too that we talk about in the book. But the most common way to redirect those conversations is, again, to empathize and then redirect towards solutions.
Well, obviously, if there's conflict, then there is a problem of some sort, a disagreement, what have you. And sometimes one or the other person is going to have to bring up something that they know the other person isn't going to take very well, whether that's a problem or a criticism, something like that. How can we raise topics like this without them becoming, escalating into arguments?
Well, there are two things that you want to keep in mind, and both of these are really grounded in good research. The first one is the idea of using a soft open. A soft open versus a hard open, right? So if you're going to create conflict by bringing something up with a hard open that's basically more accusatory, more, look, you did this wrong, and I'm calling you to account for it, versus a soft open, which sort of says, look, there's this problem and I need your help with it. That ties into something else that's a really important distinction, which is the difference between a criticism and a complaint. And we don't often think of those two things as different, but in reality they are. A lot of times when we start a conversation, especially a conversation about problems with our spouse or our kids or anybody else we care about, we tend to start them with criticisms, right? And criticisms are more antagonistic, they're more personal, they're more emotional. It has more to do with, look, I'm really upset that you did thus and such, and you better knock it off or else, right? It's sort of the approach of a criticism. A complaint is where you describe the problem. Listen, I'm really unhappy with thus and such, Jerry, and I really need to get your help in fixing this, but I'm not sure what to do. Do you have any thoughts about how we could address this problem? Mm-hmm. That's a very different thing, right, than me coming at you and saying, Jerry, you're a terrible host because you did this, and I'm really upset with you right now. I mean, that's going to get your back up, right?
Right.
So the difference between that criticism versus that complaint, the difference between the soft open and the hard open, it sets a totally different tone when you can make a complaint and use a soft open to do it versus if you use that criticism and then lead with that hard open.
Yeah, it can be very disarming. I've got a very good friend who does something just like that, Dr. Greg. He'll start the conversation, help me understand, and it's just sort of, almost.
On the one hand, you know what's coming. Right?
Right.
But on the other hand, it's a little easier to take. And that's, when I first present this stuff to people, sometimes they kind of roll their eyes and they're like, okay, that seems like an awful lot of work. But it's a whole lot less work to really think about what you want to say before you say it than it is to try to clean up the mess that gets left if you lead with those criticisms and hard opens that ultimately blow up the conversation and make it impossible to discuss.
All right, resolving conflicts gracefully, that is our goal. That should be our aim anytime we find ourselves within a conflict. And that is what our expert this hour on the program, Dr. Gregory Popcak, is talking about on Catholic Answers Live. We do have a phone line still open if you would like to get in. Maybe you've got some conflicts that arise between you and your spouse, you and a child, maybe you and a family member, a neighbor, a coworker. Conflicts can rear their ugly heads in all sort of interpersonal relationships. So please do join us here at 888-318-7884. We'll get to Christy in Colorado and the others here in just a moment on Catholic Answers Live. I just want to mention that it's hard to believe, no, it's actually not hard to believe. Christmas is already everywhere we look. It is all around us in the stores, on the TVs, the commercials, or what have you. And there's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do as Catholic Christians is we can prepare for Christmas in the right way, and we can observe the seasons as they come in the liturgical year. That includes Advent. And this Advent and Christmas season, Catholic Answers is challenging you to build up your apologetic muscles. That's right. Do this for yourself. Do it for somebody you love. And this year, Catholic Answers has two great ways to challenge yourself, your friends, and your family. This hour, I'll tell you about the 20 Answers Challenge. It's when you purchase the sampler of all 35 books in the 20 Answers series, you're going to save 65% off the normal price. And Catholic Answers is challenging you to finish them all during this Advent and Christmas season. Then they're going to give you free shipping if you live within the continental United States. So that's 65% off every set you purchase, plus free shipping. 35 books plus free shipping, plus answers to 700 questions about all things Catholic. So Advent begins Sunday, December 1st. Order your set today well ahead of time so you have them. And the offer is actually good through Sunday, November 10th. And we'll tell you about the second challenge at the bottom of the next hour.
We're ready and waiting for your call today on Catholic Answers Live.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects home buyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Every single day, I get to help our listeners of the Sunrise Morning Show wake up, find out what's going on in the church and the world, and then walk with them as we all seek to grow in knowledge and love of Jesus Christ and the Catholic faith. I mean, how could it get any better?
The Sunrise Morning Show with Anna Mitchell and Matt Swain. Tomorrow morning, 6 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Anytime you have Catholic Answers, you get Catholic questions, you get Catholic Answers live right here on your radio. I'm Jerry Usher, in for Cy Kellett today. 888-318-7884 as we talk about resolving conflicts gracefully as we possibly can with Dr. Gregory Popcak. He is the founder and director of the Pastoral Solutions Institute. And Dr. Greg, if you're all set, we got a lot of callers we want to get to here, so why don't we do that?
Let's do it.
Okay, Christy, as promised, in Colorado, is listening on iHeartRadio, and you are first today on Catholic Answers Live. Hi, Christy.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Dr. Popcak, first I want to say thank you for Better Forever. Great book, helped us a lot.
Oh, thank you for that.
And my question for you is about my 18-year-old daughter. She lives at home, college. She has her first boyfriend. We've been teaching chastity for about 8 years, and now that she has a boyfriend, it's she would like some rules to be relaxed. I like what you said about staying on the same side of an argument. I always try to do that and to speak the truth with gentleness and love. But at the end of the day, either the rule gets relaxed or it doesn't. And so I'm anticipating between now and May, when she graduates, more conflict with her. And so if you have any advice on how to keep it positive and avoid that, be great.
Sure. So what kind of rules are you guys arguing about?
Well, I wouldn't even say we're arguing about them, but really what we have a curfew. It's generous, I think. It's midnight and 10 o'clock on school nights, but I'm like, whatever you want to do, you can do by then. And then no overnights. She recently asked about going to the mountains to a cabin for the weekend with a group of friends, which turned out really to be 2 couples, and the other couple's already living together. And so I said no. And then we had a big discussion about whether she needed my permission or not. And, you know, yeah, I told her, yes, you do. You still need my permission.
No, well, I mean, you're setting the rules you're setting are great and perfectly reasonable. I guess the larger question, though, is, you know, it's not just about enforcing the rules, right? It's ultimately about discipling her into healthy adult relationships and healthy dating relationships. And you know, so I guess what I'm wondering is what kind of time are you getting with her one-on-one at this point? Not to lecture her about this stuff, but to really listen to where she's at, what's going on with the boyfriend, what her goals are for her life, and you know, and just really kind of helping her think through what she wants, who she wants to be as a young woman of God, what she wants from these relationships. Because this is a really important time for parents, right? To be mentoring their kids into healthy adult relationships. So, what kind of time are you getting with her around that kind of stuff?
Actually, quite a bit. We meet, I mean, she's home every day. I'm home, and we did a lot of homeschooling, and we've spent a lot of time together. Our relationship's very good. We actually just spent a weekend together so that we could discuss some of these things more directly. And
where's the antagonism coming from, though? Then, so what's it going to take to get more on the same page about this? Because she's clearly not seeing the point of your rules, right? So what is it that
she does? She tells me, and when she suggests that there's another way to live her life, I challenge her on that and say, you know, like what? And she'll say, well, I haven't really thought through it as much as you have, and I haven't done the research. And I'm like, and so when I ask her questions, I get very short answers, and so it ends up being more of a monologue, even though I don't.
All right, so that's helpful. Thank you. So here's what I want you to do. Okay, in the book Parenting with Grace, in the teen chapter, we kind of walk through an exercise that's going to help her clarify what her values are. So teens hate hypocrites, right? I mean, you can use that against them. But the first step you want to do is help clarify what it is exactly that she wants to be known for. What does she want to live for? She says, well, there are different ways to live. And that's technically true. But what does she want to be known for, right? And then once you've clarified that, then you can have a conversation with her about how her choices reflect that identity that she wants to project to the world. So, for instance, I like to kind of describe this as, let's imagine for a minute that you were in a reality show. You're saying to your daughter, let's imagine you were in a reality show, and the camera was just following you around 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you didn't ever tell anybody what you stood for, or what you believed in, or who you wanted to be, or what you wanted to be known as. But people were just supposed to figure that out by watching the reality show of your life. What are those things that they'd want to say about you? Another way to put it would be to say, if you think about all your friends, you probably have a sentence or two, or maybe even just a word or two that describes them. Oh, he's the ambitious one, or he's the class clown, or she's the, flirt, or whatever. What's the one or two words that you want people to really think about you? And really don't give it to her. Really make her think about that and give you some answers. And then once you've gotten some of those descriptors, ask her to consider, well, so what choices do you need to be making in your life to be able to project that message to the world? The other factor in this is I'd like to see you guys praying about this, because the other thing is, when she's saying, well, there are other ways to live, what that implies to me is that she's really not bought into a relationship with Christ or the church, which I think is probably the deeper issue. And I want to see you guys praying about this together, asking her to lead the prayer in this. If she's not sure how to do that, then really coaching her in that, because I think that this is a time where kids' faith development is all about relationship. They know something is true if it facilitates their relationships, and they start to believe it's false if it gets in the way of their relationships. And so we've got to find a way to help her integrate her prayer life into this relationship, to help her see that God wants to give her everything that she deserves too. So there are sort of several different ways to approach this. One is through that identity exercise I just gave you. The second is by praying more meaningfully about the relationship together. We talk about both of those things in the teen chapter on Parenting with Grace.
All right, Christy.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank
she
you,
is
Christy.
kind of subscribing to the clockmaker image of God right now, so
Yeah.
she doesn't, even though I show her ways that God is directly involved in our lives every day,
but it's not about showing her, it's about having her experience it. So for example, when you're praying with her, I want you to pray over her and say, Lord, help her to see how much you love her, and help her to experience your blessings in her heart, and feel that your presence in her heart, and then ask her to start leading some of those prayers too. To say, Lord, I don't know if I believe in you. I don't know if you're really here and that you really love me. I can't feel you. Can you please show me that you're real if you really are? Because I don't know what I believe. And just have her be honest with that prayer. And then when she's praying that way, then you can have her bring the relationship to it too. But all this is really ultimately saying that she doesn't really know where she stands with God. And that's the core issue.
All right, Christy, thanks for your phone call to Catholic Answers Live and your listenership. We appreciate that greatly. The number is 888-318-7884, talking about conflict resolution and how we do that gracefully as possible. Conflict is a part of life. Maybe you have that one person that just kind of grates on you or you on them. You just can't avoid conflict with them. Talk about the virtues to develop to avoid getting into conflict. We haven't talked about boundaries yet. We certainly are going to do that, but maybe you're a person who doesn't feel like you have the will or the tools to set proper boundaries. So feel free to call in and speak with Dr. Gregory Popcak at 888-318-7884. And before we go to the next break and then take Bob's call, Dr. Greg, I'm sure Christy's call is probably, you probably hear this a lot from parents, especially of teens that age. How prevalent is that issue at that point in teens' lives, between parents and teens trying to stay on the same page, parents trying to do what's best for the teens, and the teens, just wanting to kind of spread their wings a little bit?
Well, it's extraordinarily common. But I'll tell you what, in every case, it really is sort of rooted in the same issue that I was just sharing with the caller, that faith evolves through different stages. We talk about this in our book, Discovering God Together, The Catholic Guide to Raising Faithful Kids. And in the adolescent years, the stage of faith that kids are in is what we'll call the relationship stage. Okay, so as I was sharing with the caller, teens know that or they believe that something is true to the degree that it facilitates their relationships, and they believe that something's false to the degree that it complicates their relationships. And so adolescents are all about forming relationships, right? And so if we hit them with a whole lot of rules that say, well, our faith says, blah, 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 you can't do this and you can't do that, they start to see the faith as a series of obstacles that have to be overcome in order for them to have a happy and fulfilling life. Our job as Christian parents has to be to show them how the faith facilitates their ability to both become the people that they say they want to be and have relationships that are truly and authentically loving. So we have to come at this question from a much more helpful and positive angle than from just here's the list of things that our faith tells us you can't do. It's not that those things aren't true, it's just that the emphasis leaves kids cold because it makes it sound like the faith is an obstacle that has to be overcome on the way to having healthy relationships, which of course isn't true at all.
Right. Beautifully put. Thank you so much. We're going to take our second break this hour of Catholic Answers Live. I'm Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett. Dr. Greg Popcak is our guest today. Resolving conflict gracefully is our topic. The number for you to join the conversation, 888-318-7884. Get on that open phone line that's waiting for you right now.
Everybody's favorite Catholic outer space delivery pilots return for their greatest adventure yet in the brand new graphic novel Weapons of War. Fresh from saving the solar system in The Truth Is Out There and saving the timeline of salvation history in The Big Picture, Brendan and Irk land in a magnificent domed city on Mars for what is supposed to be a simple shuttle job. But soon they find themselves caught up in a sinister assault on faith and freedom. Will Mars be lost to the enemy? Brendan and Irk's only hope for the flight is in the power of God's sacramental gifts. A totally new kind of Catholic resource for apologetics and evangelization, The Truth Is Out There series combines the visual excitement and quirky humor of graphic novels with solid popular philosophy and theology. The result is a series in which everyone from teens to adults can find accessible answers to questions about God, the soul, true happiness, and much more. Order your copy of Weapons of War today by calling 844-239-4952, by visiting shop.catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
If you're a Catholic who sometimes gets intimidated by the Bible, Jimmy Akin's The Bible is a Catholic Book will help you better understand and take pride in this gift that God gave the world through the Church. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Catholics are the original Bible Christians. Order your copy of The Bible as a Catholic Book today by calling 844-239-4952, by visiting shop.catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic? Let's talk about it on Call to Communion tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Here on the program, Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett today, and Dr. Gregory Popcak is our guest. And it's one thing for you to listen to a radio program perhaps while you're driving home or doing things around the house, and you hear this or that book mentioned, and then you go, I want to get that book. What was the name of it? I can't remember. Well, Dr. Greg, why don't we give people a website where they can find all of your stuff, and maybe mention a couple of the books that you've talked about on the show today.
Sure. Well, they can go to CatholicCounselors.com. That's Catholic Counselors, all one word with an S on the end, .com, to learn more about our telecounseling practice as well as the books I've mentioned on the program so far. Specifically, we're talking a lot about God Help Me, These People Are Driving Me Nuts, Making Peace with Difficult People, which is all about managing conflict gracefully. But in the last call, I was also talking about Parenting with Grace, the Catholic Guide to Raising Almost Perfect Kids. Specifically, we were focusing on the teen chapter there, but lots of resources for parenting, for marriage, and for Christian living, all available at CatholicCounselors.com.
Okay, talking about resolving conflicts gracefully today. Bob has an issue to discuss with you, Dr. Greg. He's in Perrysburg, Ohio, listening on Annunciation Radio. Welcome, Bob.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Just fine.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Popcak, for taking my call. Big fan. So I'll just give you a little quick rundown. I'm 60 years old, and my first wife and I had 5 children, and she passed away when she was 42. We were similar age. So I still had 3 of the kids at home, and so eventually I got remarried, and there was a little bit of a conflict between my wife and my kids, some of my younger kids who were still at home. So the question I have is, when we periodically run into difficulties, usually revolving around when, I go and want to do things with my kids, because she doesn't really want anything to do with them. She always brings up the past, things that happened, 6 or 7 years. We've been married 7 years, and she'll always bring up mistakes that I've made, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it's improving. It's getting a lot better. But I just wondered if you had any ideas of how to respond. I respond to that with, you've forgiven me for that. I've said I'm sorry in the past, and you just keep bringing these things up. So I wonder if you had any ideas.
Sure. Okay, so when we're in our emotional brain, all right. Well, let me back up a minute. So there are several. We have 2 different brains at work when we're in conflict. So there's your thinking brain, which is your cortex, and then you've got your limbic system, your emotional brain. And when you get upset, then your body tends to flood with stress chemicals that literally will shut down your cortex. You could actually watch it happen on a functional MRI if you were hooked up to it when you're getting upset about something. And then your limbic system, your emotional brain, just kind of takes over. And the way the emotional brain works is it compares things, right? So if I'm upset about something right now in the present, my emotional brain starts looking back through my history to find all the things that remind me of this thing that's going on right now, and then lumps them all together and says, this is just like that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And then my mouth starts running, and I start complaining about all of that stuff at once. Really, I'm honestly just complaining about the present problem, but it's triggered all that past stuff. So what's happening is there's something going on in the present that's reminding your wife of all those other past things, and what you're saying is that there's some issue with the kids, the adult kids in the present, that's reminding you of maybe times that she feels like, other times that she feels like you chose the kids over her, or whatever it was, right? And so she's using all those old examples. She doesn't really want to go back over that old stuff. What she's trying to say is, and look, there's a long history of this exact kind of thing. And so what I'm going to suggest to you is what I started off the show with, saying to her, listen, honey, I really understand how upset you are about this and how frustrated you are about these kinds of things. Help me understand what it is that we need to do to try to resolve the issue that's in front of us, though. Because what I'm hearing you say is that this thing that's going on reminds you of this and this and this and this and this, and it's just this big long thing going all the way back years and years and years. And it just breaks my heart that you're still upset about all of this. So I'd like to work with you to figure out how we can address this moving forward. What do you think we need to do? And just really kind of engage it on that level. Don't try to refight all the old stuff. Acknowledge that, there's some validity in what she's saying from that old stuff, but that it has more to do with the issue that you're handling in the present than it does to do with all that old stuff.
Acknowledge her, the problem that exists at the time, and that how that hurts her, and then acknowledge that she's upset about all these other things that have happened in the past, but let's try to stay with solving the problem of the present.
Right, but in her mind, in her emotional brain, they're all the same thing. Because what she's really saying is there's a common element between this present problem and all these other examples I'm bringing up. So if you can kind of back her up and even say, hey, look, help me understand what you see the common thread here running between all these things is. And then she might get a deer in the headlights look on her face because she's never actually thought about it before, right? She's just feeling this stuff. But if you say to her, look, I'm hearing you complain about all these different things. Help me connect the dots. What do you think is the common element between all this? What's the common hurt that you've got with all these different things? Let's try to figure out a way to resolve that. I think that's going to kind of blow her mind and give you some new ways to respond to this dynamic.
What do you think, Bob?
Oh, that is great. Thank you very much, Dr.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for
calling. You're welcome, Bob. Thanks for the call.
Resolving Conflict Gracefully today on Catholic Answers Live with Dr. Gregory Popcak, and we will go to James next, watching on Facebook Live, and he is in Massachusetts this afternoon. Hi, James. You're on with Dr. Popcak.
Oh, hi. Just wanted to talk to the doctor. have a very complicated problem with my wife. She left me about a year ago, took off her wedding ring, and then basically when she ran out of her sister's money, who she was borrowing from, she came back home, never put the ring back on, and has basically been giving me ultimatums ever since that I need to buy her a new house because the house that we live in is not satisfactory to her. And I'm really at a loss. I'm 60 years old now, and she's already retired, and the house she wants to buy is in a much more expensive neighborhood. And it just seems as though she has a very little grasp of what it means to prepare for retirement, and all she really cares about is moving into some better type of neighborhood. And we live in a perfectly fine middle class neighborhood. It's not a problem. It's just in her mind, she just feels as though she deserves a lot more. And I've said to her, I just can't get my head around buying a new house with a person who can't even wear a wedding ring, and she just keeps throwing it in my face that I've failed her in many ways. So I just, she threatened me this morning, either buy her a house or she's going to divorce me. And I don't really know how to respond. I don't know what to say.
Well, I guess there are two things. The first thing is it's not so much about the houses as much as it is about what the house means to her. So I don't know if you've ever had that conversation where you said, "Help me understand what getting this new house really means to you." My suspicion is that it's her way of having you do penance for all the ways that she says that you've disappointed her. Whether that's legitimate or not, I don't have time to get into. But that's how it's coming across to me. She's saying to you that getting this house would mean X to me, and you guys are fighting about whether to get the house or not, and you're not really dealing with the underlying issue of what that actually would mean to her on an emotional level. The other part of it, though, I got to ask you, Jim, what have you guys done to try to resolve the larger marital problems? What kind of professional help are you getting?
Well, I have tried on several occasions to go to marriage counseling with her, and generally what ends up happening is she gets in an argument with the counselor and says, "I'm never going back to that person," because the counselor she's kind of a narcissistic personality. Like, she'll tell lies and expect, like, for example, she said to a counselor in one of the last counseling sessions we went to that the reason that she didn't go through with the divorce was because the sheriff ripped up the divorce papers, and it was just completely absurd. And the counselor said to her, how does that work? But because the sheriff happens to be a friend of mine. So she just told a lie, and she was confronted by that lie, by the counselor, and she just generally just storms out of every counseling session.
And then when she quit, then you just felt like, well, what's the point of continuing, and then you quit too?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So and that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I'm not faulting you for that. But I'm gonna challenge you, because I want you to work with somebody who's what's called a marriage-friendly therapist. That's an actual thing, not just a describing term. There's actually a registry of marriage-friendly therapists. If you go to marriagefriendlytherapists.com, all of our therapists at CatholicCounselors.com are marriage-friendly therapists. What that means is there are lots of different therapists who are actually individual counselors who, quote-unquote, also do marriage therapy. When you go to an individual counselor who, quote-unquote, also does marriage therapy, they have about a 30% success rate. When you work with a marriage-friendly therapist, the research shows that it goes up to over 90%. Now, that's step one. I want you to find a good marriage-friendly therapist, whether you work with somebody in your area or you contact us or the Pastoral Solutions Institute at CatholicCounselors.com, either way. But the second thing I want you to do is what's going to happen even when you're working with a marriage-friendly therapist. It's going to come to a point where your wife storms out of the room and refuses to go back. You have to continue at that point, because what's happening is, even though she's miserable, in a weird way, the marriage is kind of working for her. She wants to be able to offload all of her frustration onto you and say, fix this problem for me. And if anybody holds her accountable, then she's going to get upset about that. But if you pull out of the process at that point, you end up rewarding the behavior that she's engaging in. But if you continue to go to the therapist, especially if you're working with a marriage-friendly therapist, they do something called systems therapy. And systems therapy works on not just, well, the way it works is it teaches you, James, how you can respond differently to your wife so that you can facilitate a change in the larger relationship. So even if you're the only one working on the marriage, you can make it better using systems theory. And once she realizes the change is coming, with her or without her, then she's going to want to re-engage. But if she can bully her way out of this and just sort of say, well, I'm going to, you have to be the one to fix it, I'm not going to do this, and how dare you, and you buy into that, then everything is going to stay the way it is. So my encouragement to you would be to hook up with a good marriage-friendly therapist and then stay with it, even once she quits. Because if you keep learning how to respond more effectively with her, both building rapport and setting appropriate boundaries, she's going to see that change is coming one way or the other. So that's going to make her want to invest in being part of that change. And that's really the best way to move forward with that. So the two websites I mentioned, marriagefriendlytherapists.com for a local referral, or you can contact us to learn more about working with my team at CatholicCounselors.com, because we all practice that kind of counseling and do both systems therapy for marriages together as well as solo marital therapy as well.
Does that help you, James?
Yes. Very much. Thank you very much, Doctor.
You'll be in our prayers, James. Be assured of that, and we certainly want the best to come out of that. Thank you for the phone call. We got Sierra next in New Mexico. I'm Jerry Usher, filling in for Cy Kellett today on Catholic Answers Live. And you know your friends at Catholic Answers, they not only want you to get great faith resources into your hands, but they want to do it sometimes at no cost to you. And that's what's happening again right now. Catholic Answers is a brand new ebook that they've just released, and as I said, it's absolutely free. It's called A Great Cloud of Witnesses, the Communion of Saints. All you have to do to get your free copy of this ebook is visit shop.catholic.com. Look for the banner at the top of the page to download your free copy. It's full of great articles about the saints by Jimmy Akin, Tim Staples, Father Mitch Pacwa, and others. You know you can't go wrong if it's from Catholic Answers, and especially when it's free. So go to the shop.catholic.com. Look for the banner to download A Great Cloud of Witnesses, the Communion of Saints, your latest free ebook from Catholic Answers.
Catholic Answers Live. The only thing missing from today's broadcast is you. Call now with your question.
He was a doctor of the church, a Carmelite, and one of the most famous mystics of all time.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. John of the Cross wanted to help all Christians to become saints. One of his most important teachings was to encourage us all to learn how to love. "Where there is no love," he said, "put love, and you will find love." He died in 1591.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. It's free, and you'll have instant access to our daily broadcast, the schedule of upcoming shows, and you'll even be able to search the archive and listen to thousands of past shows. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
Do you love praying for people? Have you ever wanted to use your gift of prayer to share Jesus with others and build up the body of Christ? Start a public prayer station with St. Paul Street Evangelization. Listen to people's needs, pray with them, or invite them to meet you at church. St. Paul Street Evangelization can help you get started. Find out how at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
We're going to go back to your calls for Dr. Gregory Popcak today, this hour of Catholic Answers Live, talking about resolving conflict gracefully. By the way, in the second hour, again, just a heads up, His Excellency Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco. We're going to talk about beauty in liturgy. Beauty in liturgy. That is our second hour topic. So once we end up this first hour, you can start calling in for the next hour, talking about beauty in liturgy. But for now, we go back to your calls about conflict. And Sierra is in New Mexico, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Welcome, Sierra.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really nervous. I'm sorry. But anyways, I have 5 kids. and they're all in their 30s. The youngest is 17. I was a deadbeat mom, and it hurts me to say that, to even admit that. And I was abusive to my kids. They don't talk to me. But anyways, I know I've been looking in the Bible because the Bible has the answers for everything. And I've been looking in the Bible for scripture verses or for people, apostles, or just people that Jesus came in contact with in the New and the Old Testament, that a parent did that provoked, because I didn't raise them church. I didn't raise them Catholic or anything, so they don't believe in God. And I've been looking in the Bible because I can't forgive myself. I'm having a really hard time forgiving myself, and Satan knows me so well. He knows exactly what buttons to push, so that's why I'm looking for answers in the Bible. I was just wondering.
So, Sierra, let me ask you a question here. So you said you don't have any contact with the kids now at all, or do you have some kind of relationship there?
With my daughter, I don't. My oldest son, he was in the military, served his 2 or 3 years, came back with PTSD. He's a drug addict. My other son, I have 2 that are alcohol. Well, yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I apologize.
No, you're okay. So do you see any of them on any kind of regular basis, or have any kind of contact with them where they talk to you ever?
Yeah, the one I see, he's the third one. I see him. I watch his my grandson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Sierra, let's talk about what forgiveness means. All right. And first of all, I'm both. My heart's breaking for what you've been through, and I'm also really touched by the humility that you're showing here by calling up and talking about this in such a frank way, and being willing to admit, what you've done and what you've been through and how you've hurt your kids, and the desire that you have to try to do what you can to make things right and to move forward with this. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean saying that everything you did was okay, or forgiving anybody else doesn't mean that you're saying that what they did is okay either. What forgiving yourself, and this is St. Augustine who said this, forgiveness involves surrendering your natural desire for revenge. In other words, when you forgive somebody, you surrender your desire to hurt them for having hurt you. You say, look, what they did was awful, but I'm not going to go out of my way to hurt them for having hurt me and just add more fuel to the fire. When you're forgiving yourself, what you're saying is, look, what I did was terrible, was hurtful, was sinful, was destructive, but I've already done enough damage to myself and to others, so I'm not going to heap even more pain on myself by beating up on myself or hating myself. What I'm going to do instead is work for my good. I'm going to work to heal the pain that caused me to act the way I did toward my kids. I'm going to try to live the rest of my life showing them what a healthy, godly person looks like, and I'm going to fight those demons every day in a graceful way to help me become the strong, godly woman that I couldn't be when they were little, so that maybe I could show them how my faith is helping me put my life back together, and that will help them want to live a more godly life as well. So forgiving yourself doesn't mean saying everything you did was okay. It doesn't mean saying that somehow magically, you should never feel guilty about this stuff anymore. What it means, though, is you want to put all that energy that you've got into, that you're putting right now into beating up on yourself or, running yourself down. You want to put all that energy into healing and pursuing whatever opportunities God is giving you to become that whole, healed, godly, grace-filled woman that He sees when He looks at you. Again, I want to thank you for your humility and being willing to face this, and I want to let you know we're going to add you to my More to Life prayer list for my program, and I'm sure the Catholic Answers will be adding you to theirs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to encourage you to keep being faithful on your journey toward healing here, because clearly the Holy Spirit's doing something in your heart. I want you to keep participating with that.
Does that give you a little bit more peace, Sierra?
Yes, I feel at ease. What he was saying is just, I'm not going to forget, and they're not going to forget, but I need to put this energy into something good, that they see me practicing the Catholic way, that they see me as Jesus, that he's Lord and King, and they see the miracles he does in my life that'll bring them closer to God.
And they see you cooperating with God's grace to be a healthier, better integrated, more peaceful, loving, generous person. And the more they can see you being that healthy, generous person, the more that's what it means to forgive yourself, to really lean into that healing that God wants to give you.
All right, Sierra, thank you for your phone call. Feel free to call the show anytime at 888-318-7884. We're going to go to Linda next in Wisconsin, listening to Catholic Answers Live there. Hi, Linda. Welcome. You're on with Dr. Popchak.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. Yes, my issue is something that just has seemed to be becoming more and more of a problem with my adult members of my family. So, like, I'm 50. My sisters are actually all older than I am. Our parents are both passed away. So when we get together for holidays, it's just, of our adult siblings and then, of course, our children who are also, for the most part, adults. And I have one sister who just really seems to enjoy getting everybody else all riled up, So we'll be sitting at a meal, and she'll just make remarks that gets everybody else upset.
Can you give me an example of the kind of remarks she might make?
Yeah, so she knows that we are all, everybody else except for her, are all real conservative in, politics and religion and everything. So she'll say something about, well, yeah, I went to Mass in this one church, but that priest was just way too conservative for me. She'll make fun of, like, all the politicians, things like that.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. So you're wondering how to handle this?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have two suggestions for you. So first of all, let's realize what's going on here. There are some people that they like to play a game called "Let's You and Him Fight." Right? They're entertain. It's like those memes you see on social media where somebody's sitting in the theater eating popcorn while they're kind of watching the fight go back and forth. That's what she's doing. Okay, she's sort of setting up a scenario where she either wants to participate in the fight or watch the fight, but it's her fun. Okay, which is obviously not fun for anybody else. But it's not. But the reason I say that is because it's not a real conversation. She's not honestly trying to seek understanding or try to come to greater harmony. She's just throwing a ball out in the middle of the field and saying, let's kick this thing around, in the most unpleasant way possible. So because it's a game, you don't have to play it. Like if it was a real conversation, then it would, it'd be wrong to somehow let this out. So what you want to do, because it's a game, is to say to her, well, those are really important questions, or I know those are really important concerns that you've got, or that's a really serious topic. I would love to discuss that with you if you're really interested in unpacking it over the course of the year. Let's make a time to go out to lunch together after this, family gathering, and we'll have a conversation about it. Or let's set up a phone call next week to talk about this. But right now, we're all here to try to enjoy each other and be a family. Let's focus on that. Boom. It's the rare person who'll keep pushing past that, but if she does, just keep, be the broken record. Just keep coming back to that thing. But the thing to keep in mind here is if a person really wants to have a serious conversation about something, they're going to bring it up at a time where you can actually have a discussion and get to. The fact that she's not says that she's not really interested in coming to harmony about this. So it's okay to just say, look, that's a serious discussion. I'd love to have it with you. Let's do it in this way, or let's do it in that way, or follow up with me over here. But right now, we're focusing on that. The second suggestion I've got for you is, if this happens, like you were saying, it happens during dinner, but if it happens, say, after dinner or whatever, instead of just letting the after dinner time or the before dinner time be just open conversation time, plan a game or an activity that everybody can be involved in. Because if you have something to do together, a project, a game, something, then that allows you to be alongside of each other without getting too much into these more in-your-face topics. So those are two suggestions for you.
All right, Linda, hope that's helpful. Aaliyah and the others, we are not going to have time this hour. We're getting set for hour number 2 with Archbishop Cordileone. If you have questions about the liturgy, beauty in the liturgy, music, church buildings, all things having to do with our lives in the liturgy and the beauty that should be a part of it, you can start calling now at 888-318-7884. Dr. Greg Popcak, thank you so much. CatholicCounselors.com is your website, and you will hear Dr. Greg and Lisa Popcak on most of these same EWTN stations Monday through Friday at 10 Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, Greg, so much. God bless.
God bless, Jerry. Thank you.
Yep. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Catholic Answers Live on this Monday, kicking off the week. Had a great hour with Dr. Gregory Popcak. And this hour, we welcome back a very familiar guest to the program. He has been on the show many, many times, including when he was an auxiliary bishop in the Diocese of San Diego. Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco is going to be here this hour, and we're going to be talking about beauty in the liturgy. If you have questions about how we ought to understand beauty within the context of the liturgy, maybe you're wondering if beauty is just merely subjective to each individual or if it must conform to objective standards, wondering how beauty is expressed and appreciated in the liturgy, especially perhaps in the music, the way the liturgy is celebrated. We can talk about these questions. I imagine we're going to have busy phones, so you may want to just jump on one of those lines right now at 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Archbishop Cordileone is from San Diego, born there in 1956. His roots run deep in San Diego. He attended Crawford High School, San Diego State, the University of San Diego, and St. Francis Seminary, all of them in San Diego. He was ordained a priest in 1982 and appointed auxiliary bishop of San Diego in 2002. He earned his doctorate in canon law from the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, and in 1995 he was called to Rome and served 7 years as assistant at the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura. That's the Church's highest canonical court. And on March 23, 2009, Pope Benedict appointed Bishop Cordileone as the fourth bishop of Oakland, and 3 years later, Pope Benedict XVI appointed him the Archbishop of San Francisco. And it is just my extreme pleasure to be working once again with Archbishop Cordileone on Catholic Answers Live. Your Excellency, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be back with you.
And we're going to be talking about something very near and dear to your heart. I mean, so near and dear to your heart that you're actually going to be the celebrant of a beautiful, beautiful Mass of the Americas coming up a week from Saturday in Washington, D.C., I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, at the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception.
And the Mass of the Americas, Solemn Pontifical High Mass. We'll be talking about this during the course of the broadcast. Archbishop Cordileone will be the celebrant. Canon Avis will be the Master of Ceremonies. Frank LaRocca is the composer. And you can get more information about that online at massoftheamericas.com. Well, let's start out, Your Excellency, just very foundational here in our discussion. Why is beauty important, especially within the Mass?
I would look at this within the broader context of truth, beauty, and goodness, which the Church has always championed, going back to ancient classical times and the ancient philosophers. Of course, this has a special resonance for us as Christians and all those in the Judeo-Christian religious tradition, because we understand from Genesis 1, God created the man and the woman in his image and likeness. So if these are the noblest parts of our human nature, truth, beauty, and goodness, it also tells us something about God, these attributes of God. So these are our points of connection with the divine, or as Bishop Barron would say, they're doors to evangelization. And these are doors through which people can walk to the encounter with Christ. They connect us with that. And we need to keep all these doors wide open if we wish to evangelize. So the door of truth, the Church, in addition to her pioneering in the whole area of science for many centuries, we also have the Church's body of teaching and the wisdom from the saints, scholars, the fathers of the Church, the ecumenical councils. There are people who encounter Christ this way. There are people who actually read themselves into the Church. In the whole area of goodness, what the Church does to serve the poor and the suffering, again, from the very beginning of the Church, as Pope Benedict teaches, this is intrinsic to the Church's mission. It's not an optional add-on. Then the Church is still the largest private provider of social services in the world, a leader especially in the area of healthcare in our country and all of our Catholic charities and relief efforts and so forth. A lot of people encounter the love of Christ through the Church's involvement in the pillar of goodness, sharing that love of Christ through acts of charity and mercy. The door of beauty, I think, has not been as widely open, especially over these last 50 or more years, and I think we need to find ways to open that door widely, especially in the liturgy, to recover so much the Church has given to the world in the area of beauty, because beauty evangelizes, beauty lifts the soul to the divine. So it's an effort to recapture this sense of beauty that gives us a sense of transcendence, a sense of reverence, and lifting the soul to the divine helps us to live lives that are pleasing to God and helps us down the path of holiness that God calls us all to, which is nothing other than happiness with him.
Mm-hmm. Talk about, if you would, a little bit the difference between artistic expression outside of worship and then within worship.
Well, they both utilize human creativity, but artistic expression in the secular realm has more to do with the form itself and with the artist's expression of him or herself. So the artist's sort of soul is sort of imbued within the work. Whereas in a liturgical setting, it's something of the artist actually has to die, because it's not about self-expression. It's about giving honor and glory to God. So the music is not a performance. The art is not meant to draw so much attention to itself as attention to the divine. So that's why the style of art is different in a church or liturgical context, whether we're thinking of icons or of chant or of other types of sacred images, or of the movements within the liturgy. It's all a matter to draw us to God and focus attention on God and not on the artist, unlike in the secular realm of art.
Catholic Answers Live second hour on this Monday. I am Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett today, and our guest is His Excellency Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of the Archdiocese of San Francisco, and we are talking about beauty in liturgy. And if you have a question you'd like to get on board, there are still a couple of phone lines open at 888-3187-884. Those of you on the line, we will hold you up just a couple of more minutes here as we cover some more ground, and then we'll get to your phone calls. But maybe you've got questions about liturgical music, its role in the liturgy, and how it too should be truly beautiful. Maybe as you raise your kids, you're wondering how can you instill in them a sense of the beautiful. Perhaps you're wondering if there's a growing sense of what is truly beautiful among Catholics today. I think that might come through on our discussion here today. 888-3187-884. Your Excellency, regarding beauty, what one person finds beautiful might not be beautiful, at least in the eyes of someone else. So is beauty, is there a subjective element to this, more objective, or is it kind of a little bit of both?
Oh, it's a little bit of both. There isn't a subjective element, but it's not all subjective. There are sort of universal principles that apply to beauty in terms of the consistency of its design. It's the form of it, how if it reflects reality, a universal appeal. There are some things that we just instinctively know are beautiful, whether it's a beautiful sunset or a beautiful object of art or a beautiful piece of music that has this universal sense. We just instinctively know that it is beautiful. So there are rules that apply to beauty, but there also is something of a subjective element. Some people might find one style or piece of art or music more beautiful than another. So there's that element, but it's not completely subjective, as if it's all arbitrary or relative.
Right. Yeah, in fact, I could walk into an art gallery, Your Excellency, and I would see some pieces, and I would fail to see any beauty in them at all. And what I would say to myself is, it's something I'm not seeing, because I'm sure beauty is present there, and so maybe it requires all of us to just have a greater and deeper appreciation of all of this. You mentioned that the church has always had the doors open to the world, the doors of truth and goodness, and you said beauty maybe not so much in the last 50 years or so. What is it? Is there anything about the times that we're living in, turmoil, tumultuous times? Why is it important to really focus on bringing beauty back in this period in the church and in the world?
We've gone through so many social revolutions in these last 50 and more years, and part of that was a rejection of what came before, basically a rejection of Western civilization, which is what the church built. Now, it's not saying everything was perfect, and there were certainly things that needed to be corrected in the society, but there's also so much of timeless beauty that the church has given to the world that we need to retain for the good of our own soul. So it's a matter of reclaiming what is legitimate and has sadly been lost, while also looking to our own interior renewal and cleansing purification of the society that we need at the same time.
Very good. Well, we're just getting started here in our discussion of beauty in the liturgy with His Excellency Archbishop Cordileone of San Francisco. We have a number of calls, so we will start moving to your phone calls here momentarily. The number is 888-318-7884 if you'd like to join us. 888-318-7884. Do grab one of those remaining open phone lines if you would like to. And I believe I'm going to be joined now by Erica Olson of Catholic Answers, and we're going to talk about the upcoming Catholic Answers Cruise. Erica, how are you? Oh, she's coming in right now. Well, I would tell you all about the Catholic Answers Cruise, but I am not as up on it as Erica is. But I'll tell you what. I have been on, I think, 2 cruises with Catholic Answers in the past before, and it's just opportunities for you to get together with like-minded, same-thinking people who are just in love with the Catholic faith, and of course enjoy all the amenities of a cruise and still get your faith bolstered and refreshed and renewed again. So, Erica, I think you are with me now. Welcome.
I am here. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm so good. I'm here to tell you all about this wonderful cruise we're going on.
Yeah.
With Archbishop Cordileone. Hi, how are you, Archbishop?
Hello. Hi, good, fine.
He's joining us for a cruise in June. It starts June 9th through the 19th. We are going down or up the Rhine from Switzerland to Germany. We're starting in Basel, and I have a little cheat sheet here, and it's got like 10 different cities that we're going to hit, and that's not even everything we're going to see because we're taking day trips to a bunch of beautiful little towns in the area. So we're starting in Basel. We're going to France. We're spending the majority of our time in Germany. We're going to go to Trier, Bernkastel, Aachen, Cologne. We're going to see the beautiful cathedral in Cologne. Oh my gosh. If you have not seen pictures of this cathedral, just Google it. That's going to make your trip. We have we end in Amsterdam, and then we have an optional 3-day post-cruise in Amsterdam, so we're going to spend some time there. We have a great lineup. Chris Check is going to be with us. Cy Kellett is going to be coming. Father Hugh Barber, and of course, Archbishop is going to be there. Everything's included. So this is the great part about river cruising. Everything is already included. My husband and I went on last year's cruise, or actually earlier this year. I feel like the year just happened, flew by. But we were on the cruise and we spent our own money on an excursion. For 1 day's excursion, we spent nearly $400. And so if you think about it, all of those excursions add up on the big ship liners. All of your excursions are included in the cost of your cruise. So every day you're going to go on 1 or 2 excursions with us. They're all completely customized. We're going to go see cathedrals. We're going to tour the towns. And that's all included in the cost of your payment for the cruise. Also included is your beverage package. Everything that you drink on board, beer, wine, sodas, all of that you do not get included in the big ship liners. This is all included as well. So it is a little bit more pricey, but everything is absolutely included for you. And here's the one thing that I have to stress to everyone listening. We only have 15 cabins left. So if you want to come, you have to sign up right now because it's going to sell out by the end of the year. It makes a great Christmas present. Husbands, if you're looking for a wow factor for Christmas, this is it. Get your wife this cruise. Or wives, get it for your husband. That's fine too. But it makes a great Christmas gift. And come join us in June. It's going to be great. If you want information on it, you're going to go to CatholicAnswersCruise.com. CatholicAnswersCruise.com, or call 844-277-6602.
All right. Thank you, Erica, and Your Excellency. That must be something you're looking very forward to doing.
Oh, most certainly, yes.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, again, it's CatholicAnswersCruise.com. I am on that website right now and just wishing I was going to be on that cruise. So, folks, as Erica said, the cabins are going to sell out before you know it. CatholicAnswersCruise.com is where you get more information on that. And we'll be back to take your phone calls for Archbishop Cordileone in just a moment.
It's all about the truth. Catholic Answers Live.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. It's free, and you'll have instant access to our daily broadcast, the schedule of upcoming shows, and you'll even be able to search the archive and listen to thousands of past shows. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
You know what Catholic radio is? It's training for the troops. It's a inter-aural of the ear boot camp. The folks who listen, who grow in their faith, grow in charity, grow in all the virtues, they then go out and exert an influence far beyond just themselves. Catholic radio has an exponential effect for bringing people deeper into the faith.
Dr. Ray Guarendi thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
This is Catholic Answers Live, and we are talking with Archbishop Cordileone of San Francisco about beauty in the liturgy. We will continue our conversation and let you join in with your phone calls in just a moment. But we mentioned early in the broadcast that His Excellency is going to be the celebrant at a solemn pontifical high mass, first ever celebration of the Mass of the Americas in Latin, celebrated by His Excellency. That'll be at the National Shrine of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. Canon Avis is the Master of Ceremonies. That's coming up a week from this Saturday, and it's being put on by the Benedict XVI Institute for Sacred Music and Divine Worship. And Your Excellency, give our listeners a broader picture of what this is about.
Yeah, so the Institute has this purpose of, again, opening wider that door of beauty by providing parishes with practical resources and revitalizing a Catholic culture of the arts. One of the initiatives we've taken is composing new masses of sacred music. So we're blessed to have Frank LaRocca, a very accomplished composer of sacred music here locally in the Bay Area. So this is the first mass we've asked him to compose. This came about early last year, when in the Archdiocese of San Francisco, we celebrate Archdiocesan-wide Our Lady of Guadalupe on the Saturday before her feast day, before December 12th, which last year was December 8th. So when I realized early in the year that we would be celebrating the Mass for the Solemnity of the Immaculate Conception, or in the context of all these celebrations for Our Lady of Guadalupe with a 12-mile procession and other festivities and concluding with a large Mass in the cathedral at 2 o'clock. I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to hold up Our Lady as the one who unites all of God's children, right? We all love Our Lady. She has so many titles. She's appeared in so many places in the world, and she's the mother who unites us into one family of God. So I saw this as a real opportunity to build up unity. So I asked Frank to compose this Mass in which he would incorporate these very beloved popular songs the Mexican people sing to honor Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's very dear in the heart to those melodies and kind of the sound of that music, to incorporate it within the context of sacred music. I told him to do with a sense of sound through music what the Franciscan missionaries did with the sense of sight through architecture when they came up with mission church architecture, right? It's a traditional Catholic church, but it also reflects the local culture in the building materials that are used and the style of art that develop from that. So to incorporate this musically. So a very beautiful Mass came about. Most of the Mass parts are in Latin. Some parts are in Spanish. A couple of parts are in English. He composed a communion meditation, which is the Hail Mary prayer in the language of the Aztec people, Nahuatl, the language that Our Lady spoke to St. Juan Diego in. Very beautiful meditation. So we're beginning to take this Mass on the road. We celebrated it a second time already in Tijuana in February. The Archbishop there, who's an accomplished musician himself, was hosting a National Congress of Liturgical Music, and he wanted it as the closing Mass for that Congress. And I was able to, he invited me to be the celebrant and preach at the Mass. The singers and musicians were from the American side of the border, so it was another moment of unity. Now we'll be celebrating it at the National Shrine, this time in traditional form of the Mass, Solemn High Pontifical Mass, the traditional form. So Frank has adapted the music to be suitable to an extraordinary form version of the Mass. Again, a sense of continuity and unity, even within the church's form of worship. So it will be the same music, the same vestments. A special set of vestments were commissioned for this Mass. Very beautiful and very reflective of Marian theology and the symbols, especially reflecting her appearance at Tepeyac for Our Lady of Guadalupe. So to show this consistency with the church's worship. And we believe there are many new compositions of sacred music yet to come. We need to keep alive what is of timeless beauty from the past, because it's not to be confined to the past. It's of timeless beauty. We need to continue singing that today. But we can also develop new compositions that are truly sacred and truly beautiful and continue to develop the tradition. So as you had mentioned, people can find more information about this at massoftheamericas.com. We're having a conference afterwards with speakers from different areas of the arts. Richard Sparks, the conductor, will be speaking about that aspect. Andrew Dessau, the artist, will be speaking about Christian art. And James Matthew Wilson, the accomplished poet and professor at Villanova University, will be speaking about poetry. And also we'll have a book signing with a book he actually wrote. It's a series of song cycles for the Mass of the Americas entitled Rivers of the Immaculate Conception. So everyone is certainly invited to take part of that as well.
Beautiful. As you're talking, I can see a huge contribution to the restoration of beauty in the liturgy and just in the church in general, and hopefully within the larger context of the world as well. So thank you for sharing that all with us. And
really a guiding thought came from Pope Benedict, who said that the only really effective apologia for Christianity comes down to two arguments, namely the saints the church has produced and the art which has grown in her womb. And the whole purpose of art is to help produce saints. So that's the principle for us.
Beautiful. Massoftheamericas.com is where you will find that. And that is Saturday, November 16th, starting at 10 a.m. with the Mass and then the conference afterwards. Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone will now take your questions on beauty in the liturgy. We will start with Rachel. Rachel, thanks for your patience in San Antonio, listening on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Rachel. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm. Yes, what can we do for you?
My question, well, I guess leading up to it, I think for me, one of the most beautiful parts of the Mass, and it's just like the Mass itself and how it exudes beauty, is the liturgy of the Eucharist. But in the sense that specifically the part where we, sing Lamb of God, Lamb of God, Lamb of God, and then we drop to our knees and we kneel. And part of that, because Scott Hahn spoke about the Mass, he did a great job bringing the beauty of that alive in his text. And then also just the pure reverence and kind of showing of respect for the consecration of the host and the wine and everything like that, that really just speaks volumes of our faith itself. And so toward the end of Holy Communion, I've been to many parishes around the United States and stuff like that, and I've seen two different things as far as the ending of Holy Communion, and I was hoping you could shed some light on this. I've seen some people continue to kneel until the tabernacle is closed, and then other people will finish kneeling and get back in their seats when the priest sits down. And to me, I mean, I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong, but I thought it was when the tabernacle was closed because it was showing the respect and the reverence and everything of the consecrated bread and wine, and then that is back in the tabernacle or consumed. So I don't know if I was confused or other people are confused or if it really matters.
Yes, well, interestingly, there aren't really rubrics for the lay faithful attending Mass, with a few exceptions in the Roman Missal, such as beating the breast during the Confiteor or bowing during those words during the profession of faith. So these standing, kneeling, sitting are regulated by episcopal conferences. Normally, those instructions would be in a missalette or in a hand missal. As far as after a communion specifically, the in some places, the bishop directs the people to stand until the Eucharist is reposed. But in most places, they kneel. The respectful thing would be to kneel while communion is going on. So I suppose if normally the priest would sit down at the end of communion, but if perhaps it's a large mass, communion is still going on, and he has finished distributing communion, he may sit down at that point. I think, in my opinion, it could go either way. The priest celebrant sitting down is a signal for that it might be acceptable for people to sit, mainly because he can't kneel. He doesn't have a kneeler at his chair, right? Perhaps maybe it'd be better if he remained standing until communion were finished, in which case it would be more of a signal to remain kneeling. I think what's most appropriate, in my own opinion, is that the people remain kneeling until the Eucharist is reposed in the Blessed Sacrament. And again, I think normally the priest would be seated at that point.
Okay, Rachel, thank you for your insightful question. We appreciate that. We're going to go to Josh next. It's Catholic Answers Live. Beauty in the Liturgy. Any questions you have on that topic? 888-318-7884 for San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone.
Catholic Answers Live.
Every Catholic has heard the challenge. How can you believe that? Don't you know the Bible says? It's a challenge we have to meet. If we can't reconcile apparent contradictions between Scripture and Catholic teaching, how can our faith survive? And if we can't answer our Protestant brothers and sisters, how will they ever come to embrace the fullness of the faith? In Meeting the Protestant Challenge, apologist Carlo Broussard gives you the knowledge and tools you need to answer 50 of the most common Bible-based objections to Catholicism. Be prepared to give an answer. Order your copy of Meeting the Protestant Challenge today by calling 844-239-4952, visiting shop.catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Many Catholics ignore the Bible. They say they have the Church instead. But we should embrace sacred Scripture not just as the revealed Word of God, but as a Catholic work, intimately connected with the Church from the earliest centuries. In The Bible is a Catholic Book, apologist Jimmy Akin shows how the Bible cannot exist apart from the Church. In The Bible is a Catholic Book, apologist Jimmy Akin shows how the Bible cannot exist apart from the Church. In its origins, in the truths it contains, in its careful preservation over the centuries, Scripture is inseparable from the Catholic faith. This is fitting, since both come from God for our salvation. If you're a Catholic who sometimes gets intimidated by the Bible is a Catholic Book will help you better understand and take pride in this gift that God gave the world through the Church. After all, Catholics are the original Bible Christians. Order your copy of The Bible is a Catholic Book today by calling 1-844-239-4952, visiting shop.catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic? Let's talk about it on Call to Communion tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Jerry Usher in for Cy Kellett today. Good to have you with us. We're talking about beauty in the liturgy and beauty in general, really, how it's so important to a world that has really in many ways lost its sense of what is truly beautiful, what is true, what is good, what is beautiful, the things that the Church not only embraces but really wants to extend throughout the entire world. And we have Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone with us from San Francisco to answer your questions. And Josh, you're going to be next. He is watching the program, the stream on YouTube Live in Columbia, Maryland. Hi, Josh. Welcome to the program.
Hey, how you doing? My question is that since I started to become Catholic, I know that there's a lot of traditional Catholics that believe that the Novus Ordo Mass they claim that it's like Protestantized, or it's too Protestant-like, or that it was like created to appease Protestants to help make them want to join the Catholic Church more. I'm wondering, how accurate are these claims?
as far as the form of the Mass goes, I suppose maybe sort of a superficial look at it would seem that way, since the Mass is now all in English and with the priest facing the people. But the Second Vatican Council encouraged a greater use of the vernacular in order to involve people more in the celebration of the Mass. But it also said that Latin was to remain the language of the Roman Rite. So I think that's why it's especially important in the celebration of the Mass, according to the form that we have now, great attention be given, that it be done with great reverence, great respect, and done well in a very holy sense, because otherwise it could look like just sort of a communion service, but that's not what it is. But we need to make a very intentional effort to make sure we don't get lazy, so that would end up looking that way. So such things as what the council encouraged, and all the church's instructions on music and the liturgy ever since, especially Pope Paul VI, who issued a little hymnal called Jubilate Deo and sent it out to all the bishops in 1974. These are the basic chants in Latin that are beginning to be well known now, but there were and other hymns in Latin. This is what the council had envisioned, and the church still does, that there be a basic repertoire that's in our common patrimony that all Catholics throughout the world would know. So when we're together for Mass, we can pray those parts together. So I think if we really observe what the council was asking for, and the church has repeated ever since, it will protect us from going off in a direction where the celebration of the Mass looks like it's nothing more than a communion service, but truly is the sacrifice of Christ. It is true that in the reform of the Mass, the changes that were made, some of that sacrificial language was removed. A lot of those were private prayers of the priest. There was this great momentum to get people more involved in praying the Mass rather than just observing it. I think that may have been some reason for that, reducing those numbers of private prayers of the priest. But the most important thing is that the liturgy, whichever form, that it be celebrated well according to the mind of the church and according to the direction the church has given us for correct celebration of the Mass.
Does that help you, Josh?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. When did you become Catholic, Josh? You said you just converted?
Well, kind of. I'm still in RCIA. I haven't been confirmed yet.
Awesome. Well, welcome home a little bit early. We'll be keeping you in our prayers as you take that beautiful, beautiful journey that God has you on. Thanks for your call, Josh. We appreciate it. Very good question. Okay, Archbishop Cordileone answering your questions about liturgy, beauty in the liturgy, and the role of beauty really in our everyday lives and in the world. And we have an anonymous caller up next, and I don't see where the caller is calling from either. So, Anonymous, welcome to Catholic Answers Live.
Hi.
Hi
Can
there.
you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, my question was, it's similar to the last caller. I have a preference for going to it's the ordinary form of the Mass, right? So I call it even the traditional form because we've been having the Mass said this way for decades now. So I like to use the word traditional Mass. But I was at a party, Halloween party for a big group of homeschoolers, and a good portion of them go to a extraordinary form, a parish that does the Mass in extraordinary form. And a particular woman said to me, "Oh, I don't believe in the Novus Ordo Mass. It's a Vatican II Mass. It doesn't have the same level of reverence." And I was thinking to myself, that's not the truth about my parish. My parish, the pastor does it the Mass in a very reverent way. And I thought that they're exactly the same now, except for the fact that the Latin Mass, it's just all in Latin versus English versus the vernacular. I thought they were the same, and we have the same level of reverence, the incense, the bells and the smells and all that. So I thought, how could our Mass be somehow less effective or less? I mean, I didn't understand what she was trying to say. So I don't personally believe that the Latin Mass is somehow better than the ordinary form of the Mass. But she made me feel like somehow it's not as it's like it doesn't fulfill our obligation on Sunday like the Latin Mass does. That's the way she made it feel.
My sense is people with that perspective on it, it results from a certain radical rupture that took place in the way the changes were introduced after the council. And again, I mentioned earlier in the program about these social revolutions when so much was rejected of what came before, that so a lot was rejected that was not supposed to be rejected. In fact, the council wanted us to retain what was beautiful from the Mass. And I think that so the sense of irreverence crept in. And you're very blessed to be in a parish that celebrates the Mass so well, so reverently and beautifully. But unfortunately, that's not the case everywhere. So I think a lot of people, especially traditionally minded people, have experienced Masses, the Novus Ordo Mass, and other parishes that were sloppily done, irreverently done. Now, it's also true, before the council, there was sloppiness and irreverence at what we call the traditional Mass. But I think because of the way it was structured, it less affected the people because people tended to be more in the pews observing what was happening. And that was there was a movement for decades before of getting people more involved in the responses of the Mass, saying those parts in Latin. And that's something the council was envisioning promoting to get them more integrated into the Mass. So I think when it was done sloppily was the priest up at the altar and the people in the pews were less affected, especially musically because it was the same traditional style music. When now things are done sloppily or even irreverently, it affects the people more directly. So I think she's probably reacting against that. But certainly when the Mass in its current form is done beautifully, reverently, with all those elements that enhance the sense of the sacred, it can be a deeply moving and beautiful experience. Again, it doesn't have to all be in the vernacular. The Church, again, encourages retaining some of these chants in Latin, and so there could be a healthy mixture, as I've seen happen many times.
Does that help you out, Anonymous?
It does. And I just told her, I said, Vatican II was called by John Paul II the greatest grace of the last century. So I think maybe you're misunderstanding what happened there. I think in parishes or dioceses where it was implemented poorly, like most of the United States, that's where you see problems. But in dioceses around the world where it was implemented properly, the Mass is still done reverently in the vernacular wherever it is. And yes, she didn't agree with me, but that was my my take on it.
Unfortunately, so much of what the council said was not paid attention to, and some things that maybe even went against what the council said, such as retaining the use of Latin as a language of the Roman Rite while making greater use of the vernacular to involve people's participation. There's kind of a balance that they had envisioned, but it went all in one direction. Or teaching the people to sing these chants together. The mentality got sunk in that the Church was doing away with Gregorian chant when actually the council said the opposite. They wanted people taught to sing these chants. So a lot of these problems result from ignorance of the council or not paying attention to what the council really said and had envisioned happening. Another sort of element took over with this sense of, again, it was part of the times too, these social revolutions that rejected everything that came before. I think that mentality unfortunately crept in, and the Church wasn't able to faithfully implement the council early on.
Thank you, Anonymous, for your call. We appreciate that very, very much to Catholic Answers Live. And this might be a good moment, Your Excellency, to ask you about Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Emeritus. Benedict XVI had said that he would like to see the two forms of the Mass, extraordinary form and the ordinary form, not only coexist, but also influence each other. So how do you think that has happened?
Yes, he calls that the mutual enrichment of the two forms of the Roman Rite. And I understand very much his deep wisdom here. He knows that something went awry. Too much was rejected of what was true and beautiful. And he calls this the hermeneutic of rupture rather than a continuity with the Church's worship. Yet he realizes that it would be a mistake to repeat what was done after the council of mandating changes from above and imposing that on people who may be resistant to that. That's what happened when the changes first happened. He understands that we need to recover an authentic sense of liturgy, but it has to grow organically. From what I understand of his vision is that if both forms of the liturgy are a regular part of Catholic life, Catholics can easily go to both forms of the liturgy. Over time, they will begin to enrich each other, and there will be a convergence in the church's worship. That the ordinary form of the Mass will be celebrated with greater reverence and with the traditional elements of the Mass before the Council. Then the traditional form of the Mass will be celebrated with greater participation of the people, with them singing parts of the Mass and so forth. And eventually, over time, I mean, this is the work of many generations, if not centuries, that there would be a convergence. But it has to happen in this organic sense, which can only happen if both forms of the Mass are a regular part of Catholic life for most of our people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, stand by. We'll get to more of your questions for Archbishop Cordileone of San Francisco on beauty in the liturgy. I just want to quickly point out to you, as we said last hour, if you were with us. If not, I'll refresh you on that. This Advent and Christmas season, Catholic Answers is challenging you to jump into your faith like never before. And this year, 2 great ways to challenge yourself are being made available from your friends, for yourself, I should say, and your friends and your family. Last hour, we told you about the 20 Answers Challenge. Now we're going to tell you about challenge number 2, Meet the Protestant Challenge. Carlo Broussard's new book, Meeting the Protestant Challenge, is the perfect way to challenge yourself this Advent. Carlo examines 50 challenges that Protestants commonly make from the Bible, covering a variety of topics concerning church authority, scripture and tradition, salvation, the sacraments, Mary and the saints, eschatology, and Catholic life and practice. And then he offers you a series of ways to meet these challenges, ultimately showing that they don't succeed in proving Catholic beliefs to be contrary to the Bible. What a great way to learn your faith more fully this Advent and Christmas season. And through Sunday, this coming Sunday, November 10th, Catholic Answers is offering free shipping on Carlo's book within the continental United States. It's Meeting the Protestant Challenge. You will find details about that in the shop.catholic.com.
Join us on air today on Catholic Answers Live.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
I'm really a revert. There are a lot of converts on Catholic radio, a lot of reverts, those who have come back to the faith. And ever since I came back to a practice of my faith, I started praying the rosary, going to even daily Mass, God has led me on an amazing journey and used me in a lot of incredible ways that I never dreamed would have been possible.
Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie, tonight, midnight Eastern on EWTN Radio.
We have a big problem. Our culture is dying, and souls are in danger of being lost. The answer is conversion to Jesus Christ in His church. St. Paul Street Evangelization is a Catholic organization, and we have hundreds of teams spreading the good news throughout the country. But we need your help. The harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Catholic Answers Live. We're in the home stretch of this Monday broadcast with His Excellency Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco. And we have mentioned a couple times the beautiful solemn pontifical high mass that's going to be celebrated on Saturday, November 16th at 10 a.m. at the National Shrine of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. And Archbishop Cordileone is going to be the celebrant for that. It's the Mass of the Americas, and it's being sponsored by the Benedict XVI Institute for Sacred Music and Divine Worship. And Your Excellency, I definitely want to give you a few minutes here before we take other calls to let our listeners know about the Institute and the fine work that it's doing.
Yes, as I had mentioned, the purpose of the Institute is to provide practical resources to parishes to enhance their celebrations of the liturgies and revitalize the Catholic culture of the arts. So we have a teaching choir that works with parish choirs and school choirs, for that matter, teaching them how to sing chant. And even the first place they went to do this was, we have a state prison in our archdiocese, San Quentin State Prison. The chaplain there asked them to teach the men how to sing chant, and we had did a concert, and 30 men signed up for a Gregorian chant schola at San Quentin State Prison. And religious orders, communities have asked for this assistance. We've been having chant camps for children, teaching them how to chant the Mass. We've had instructions for parish music directors to help teach them how to teach chant to others. So we've had the parish resource side, we've had that going on. Then we have on the revitalizing the Catholic culture of the arts. We have a lecture series, because this is all areas of art and including literature. So we sponsor a lecture series. We have an online magazine featuring the work of Catholic artists, Catholic Arts Today. And this is Catholic artists in the secular realm of art, but how their faith influences their artistic work, and they can have an evangelizing influence in their society, the societies that they're involved with. So we have a number of these different initiatives to try to accomplish this two-pronged vision of enhancing our regular celebrations of the Mass and reclaiming the rightful place of the Church as a patron of the arts.
Beautiful. Again, the Mass of the Americas is Saturday, November 16th, 10 a.m. I know that we're broadcasting on Guadalupe Radio Network in the Washington, D.C. area. And, of course, if you're from even if you have to drive a little ways or even fly there to experience this, I know it's going to be an absolute gem of an experience for anyone who goes. You'll find more information about that at massoftheamericas.com. Okay, I want to get to Francesca in Boston, if we can do that here. It's just going to take just a second here. She's just finished being screened right now, but I think that's an excellent question for us to get to next. Is Francesca ready? I believe she is. Hello, Francesca, are you there in Boston? If we can, I'm sorry to do that to you guys. She was just in the middle of being screened. Francesca in Boston, welcome to Catholic Answers Live. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I'm convert, 5 years now, Catholic, and I have been asked to play for a piano. I've been doing this since Easter, playing piano for Mass, and I'm learning organ with the foot pedals and all. So it's good, but I love Gregorian chant, and I love sacred music. Just it's sublime to me, and we have complete Novus Ordo, and they don't like the chantress does not like Gregorian chant, and I just wondering if you have any suggestions on how I can begin to bring that in somehow.
The Church's worship is more diverse now than it used to be, but certainly that diversity should include what has traditionally come before, and help her understand that chant connects with an awful lot of people, especially younger people who didn't grow up during these liturgy wars that some of us older people experienced at that time. I recently celebrated a Mass at our seminary for high school age boys and their parents. And we have a choir for the Benedict XVI Institute that sang, and the two young priests who assisted me with the Mass afterwards, they asked me, why are there people who don't like Gregorian chant? It's so beautiful and holy and meditative. So I think people have a more objective view, understand the value of chant. So I would say to encourage having this as a possibility, give people an opportunity to experience, not that you're going to remove what's there now and replace it with this, but you expand the wealth of the resources that you have and give people the opportunity to encounter chant, because it will connect well with a lot of people who might not connect with the other style of music. That's how I would approach that.
Okay, Francesca, any follow-up on that?
Oh, well, thank you. I'll ponder that. Our priest he likes folk music best, and so.
Yes, but I would emphasize it's not a matter of one's personal taste. It's a matter of, first of all, following the guidance the Church gives us, which is actually that people should be taught Gregorian chant. Other forms of music can develop from it as long as it's consistent with it, such as polyphony, and I mentioned specifically polyphony. So this is certainly in keeping what the Church envisions. But a lot of people like the more contemporary music, but it's not a matter of personal taste. It's a matter of evangelization. So to be open to what other people like. Some people like the traditional music, but a pastor who does is going to have to know how to do contemporary music well, because that's going to connect with some people. So it's a matter of reaching as many people as we can, not a matter of enforcing one's personal taste on everyone else.
All right, Francesca, thank you so much for your call from Boston there to Catholic Answers Live. Just have a couple of minutes remaining here. And Your Excellency, you mentioned those of us, I will say our age, who have been through some of the liturgical wars and lived to tell about it. What about, we're seeing among young people today some interesting trends. For example, they seem to be more pro-life than, previous generations of young people, and various similar trends where there seems to be kind of a turning away from the shallowness of what the world has offered and so forth. Do you see great hope for liturgical beauty and sort of just a restoration of that reverence that you've talked about during the broadcast today?
We certainly see how this is resonating with young people. They desire something that is deep and that is timeless, because they're living in a world where there's so much violence, so much ugliness and superficiality. And some of them are realizing this isn't working. And, this all fits together. True beauty, especially within the liturgy, is holy, and it inspires one to a life of holiness, a life of virtue. So naturally, they're going to be more understanding of the sanctity of human life. And we need to capitalize on that potential to help form them in a life of virtue, because one has to be truly virtuous in living their Christian life in this world, especially in relationship with others. They're truly going to respect the sanctity of life and contribute to the common good. So I do see a lot of hope here if we can seize this moment of how this young people are responding to the timeless truth and beauty that the church has to offer.
You probably know my love for vocations and my apostolate vocation boom that's been going for 10 years to encourage young men to be priests. I can't miss the opportunity to ask you about that. How, God bless the priests who have held down the fort, for the last several decades. But in my own experience, Your Excellency, I think we're seeing young men today who really appreciate these sorts of things that you're talking about, and really are very much, perhaps much more open to, the things like you said, the chant, the polyphony, the sacredness of the liturgy, and so forth. Is that your experience among, say, young seminarians and priests?
Oh, yes. Most of them are much more drawn to that form of music and style of worship. Yes.
Very good. Well, that is going to wrap up our time here with Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of the Archdiocese of San Francisco. I want to give you, again, the last word, Your Excellency, on this fantastic event coming up a week from Saturday in Washington, D.C., and feel free to extend an invitation to anybody who is able to get there for this beautiful Mass that you're going to be the celebrant for.
Yes, I encourage you all to attend the Mass of the Americas, this newly composed Mass in honor of Our Lady, under double titles, Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception and Our Lady of Guadalupe, the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, and the conference to take place afterwards, when we can go more into depth in the Church's tradition of beauty in so many different ways.
You will find more details of that. Oh, go ahead.
But you're saying what I was going to say.
Yes. MassOfTheAmericas.com, MassOfTheAmericas.com. Your Excellency, Archbishop Cordileone, it has been a wonderful, experience for me to be back on the radio with you. We used to do this quite regularly when I was the host of Catholic Answers Live and you were auxiliary bishop in San Diego. Yep. We'd had our Ask a Canon Lawyer program, so I miss those days, but God has called each of us in a little bit different directions here, but thankfully we were brought back for this blessed occasion here today. Would you be so kind as to offer a short prayer and give us your blessing, please?
Certainly. We pray that Almighty God might bless you. May He guide you. May He fill you with His light, His truth, His goodness. May you know His beauty and grow in the path of holiness. And may He send His blessing upon you, that it may remain forever. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And our prayers and good thoughts go with you and all of our bishops and our priests. Thank you so much for your, just your beautiful, courageous witness to the truth and for your vocation, your yes to God. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Jerry Usher here for Cy Kellett. That'll wrap up Monday's Catholic Answers Live. I will actually be back with you, I think, a few days next week. I believe Monday through Thursday. So you haven't heard the last of me for the month of November while Cy is away doing some other things. And you could also catch me and my co-host Debbie Georgianni on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We talk about the stuff of everyday life, and you, the Take Two family, our listeners, you are the ones who drive the show with your lived experiences, your wisdom, your insights, your takes, and so we rely on you to make it a great show each and every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern with a replay at midnight Eastern time on many of these same EWTN radio stations. So again, don't forget to check out massoftheamericas.com, and when you have questions that need answering when we're not on the radio, it's the website that everyone should know, and it's the easiest Catholic website in the world to remember. It's Catholic.com. We'll talk to you again soon. God bless.